If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Grey Knight's Sanctic Spearhead Overview. This video is an overview of the new Grey Knight's 10th edition Codex Detachment Sanctic Spearhead. This is our vehicle detachment. Dread Knight lists and other vehicle-heavy Grey Knight lists have a strong detachment they can use to build a list. We will take a look at the Grey Knight's Army Rule, then the Sanctic Spearhead Detachment Rule, Enhancements, and Stratagems. I have a list of some top units for the detachment with a few example lists. We are just getting into the Codex. I'm sure these lists will evolve over the coming months. Let's start with the Army Rule, Gate of Infinity. The Grey Knight's Army Rule is Gate of Infinity. If your army faction is Grey Knights, at the end of your opponent's fight phase, you can select a number of Grey Knights units from your army with this ability, excluding units that are within engagement range of one or more enemy units, providing all models in that unit have this ability. The maximum number of units you can select depends on the battle size as follows. Once you've made your selections, remove those units from the battlefield and place them into strategic reserves. That is the Army Rule, returning units to reserves at the end of the opponent's fight phase. What we do with those units is not part of the Army Rule. We can hold the units in reserves until the end of the game if we want. It won't win games, but we technically could do it since this is a reposition move. Units use the reserves, strategic reserves rules to replace those units back on the battlefield. It is why it is so important so many of our Grey Knights units have the Deep Strike ability. Yes, that means we can hold a unit in reserves to rapid ingress that unit. The Sanctic Spearhead Detachment Rule, the Mailed Fist. Each time a Grey Knight's vehicle unit from your army advances, do not make an advance roll for it. Until the end of the phase, add 6 to the movement of the models in that unit. As well as until the end of the turn, ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Assault ability. Auto advance 6 and assault on all of our ranged weapons for our Grey Knight's vehicle units. A simple but effective detachment rule for our Grey Knight's vehicles. Other than the Nemesis Dread Knight, we have no way to advance and charge. We will be able to advance and shoot our vehicles though. Auto advance 6 inches with assault on our vehicles, plus our Gate of Infinity Army Rule. Getting line of sight will not be too difficult with this detachment. Next up is the 4 enhancements for the Sanctic Spearhead. Our first enhancement is Driven by Duty, Grey Knight's Walker model only. Each time the bearer piles in or consolidates, the bearer can move up to 6 inches instead of 3 inches. What I'd like about this is it is a flat 6 inches, not the unreliable D3 plus 3. This on a Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight will be useful for tagging other units in the pile-in phase. Even better for the 6-inch consolidate to kill something, consolidate 6 inches into another enemy unit or onto an objective. It has to be used on a Walker model only. I can't see it being that useful on a Venerable Dreadnought though. We want that Dreadnought as a utility buffing unit, not a frontline brawler. Next up is Quickening Foci, Grey Knight infantry model only. In your movement phase, each time a bearer's unit disembarks from the transport until the end of the turn, you can reroll charges made for that unit. Neat I suppose, but not something that screams, take me in a transport. We could take a chaplain to get reroll charges, and we do not need to get out of a transport to use that either. Infantry models only, so no dropping a character Dreadnought out of a Storm Raven with reroll charges for us. I can't see this enhancement getting taken that much in lists. Next up is the Faithful Sigil of Exigence, Grey Knight's model only. Once per battle in your opponent's shooting phase, when the bearer's unit is selected as a target of a ranged attack, you can remove the bearer's unit from the battlefield, then set it back up again anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy models. If the bearer is no longer an eligible target, your opponent can select new targets for any attacks that had targeted that bearer's unit. The best enhancement in the detachment. We can put it on any Grey Knight model that can take an enhancement. We could put it on a vehicle or infantry leader, drop that unit in the enemy backlines for some secondary points or to take out an enemy unit. Then in our opponent's turn, if they target the bearer's unit, we can pick that unit up and place it somewhere safe or in a staging area. We do have to be careful the opponent does not decide just to move and charge that bearer's unit. There is no Mist of Daimos stratagem in this detachment, so there's no way if the enemy moves within 9 inches to pick that unit up, the opponent will be able to move within charge range and then charge this unit without targeting it with ranged attacks. So you have to be careful with that. It's not quite as strong as it was in the index. The last enhancement is Spiritus Machina, Grey Knight's infantry model only. In your shooting phase, each time the bearer's unit is selected to shoot, the bearer's unit disembarks from a transport this turn. Each time a model in that bearer's unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the wound roll. This is another Grey Knight's infantry only enhancement. It is overall better than our other transport enhancement. Granted, that is not that hard. The problem with this one is it is in the shooting phase only. We do not have an infantry unit I feel that is strong enough to be worth the points cost of a transport, the character, and this enhancement. Purifiers already have a way to re-roll wounds. The Purgation Squad can equip a bunch of underpowered ranged heavy weapons, not at all worth the entire combo points. Next up is our Sanctic Spearhead Stratagems. Our first one is a Abominus class target for 1 CP. In your shooting phase or the fight phase, one Grey Knight's unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets a vehicle or monster unit, add 1 to the wound roll. This is a great stratagem for taking out monster and vehicle units, something we typically struggle with. It works in the shooting and the fight phase on any Grey Knight's unit for only 1 CP. Purifiers, Paladins, Dread Knights, or even the mighty Stormraven gunship can all use this stratagem to kill some vehicle or monsters. Let's hope the rest of the stratagems are as good as the Abominus class target. The next stratagem is Argent Wrath for 1 CP. In your charge phase, just after a Grey Knight's vehicle unit from your army ends a charge move, each enemy unit within 3 inches of that vehicle unit must take a Battle Shock test, subtracting 1 from that test. Battle Shock rules are usually hit or miss. Luckily, this is a hit. I like how it is -1 to the Battle Shock test and each enemy unit within 3 inches. Within 3 inches does help. Wholly within 3 inches would have been awful. -1 to the Battle Shock test will get more overall failed Battle Shock rolls. Need to turn off a dangerous stratagem from being used, such as Fight on Death, or need to steal an objective for Storm Hostile, 1 CP could be worth trying to Battle Shock a certain unit/units. Next up is Armored Aegis for 1 CP. In your command phase, 1 Grey Knight Psyker vehicle unit from your army, 1 model in your unit regains up to 3 lost wounds. A flat 3 wound regained on a vehicle for 1 CP is a nice little health boost. We can use this to make our vehicles stick around longer on the board. Some vehicles like the Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knights have a degraded profile. 1 to 4 wounds remaining means they will be -1 to the hit roll of the ranged and melee attacks. At 2 to 4 wounds remaining, use Armored Aegis for 1 CP to bring that Dread Knight back up to hitting on its normal 3+ again. Force Wave for 1 CP. In your movement phase or your charge phase, 1 Grey Knight's vehicle unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time your unit makes a normal, advance, or charge roll, it can move horizontally through terrain features. This kind of stratagem seems to be a staple of all vehicle detachments. I'm not complaining either. It opens up a lot more ways to get our vehicles into combat. It can also be used to get our vehicles into line of sight to get some shots off. It does not allow a Grey Knight vehicle unit to move through enemy models. Terrain yes, enemy models no. Remember, your big vehicle bases/models cannot end their movement inside a terrain wall, as in halfway through a terrain feature. Next up is Redoubled Assault for 1 CP. Your movement phase, just after a Grey Knight's vehicle unit from your army falls back, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. Fall back, shoot and charge. I do wish this was advance and charge. Fall back, shoot and charge is nice, but not something we need. We are a melee first army with some decent to good shooting. Not a lot of enemy units are willing to pile into or consolidate into Grey Knights units. We do not have the toughest vehicles in the game. The Dread Knights are only toughness 8. If they get charged by a melee unit, they usually die. There will be, of course, plenty of times we can use this on, say, a Razorback, Land Raider, or Storm Talon. It's not hot garbage, but it's not advance and charge either. Our last stratagem for the Sanctic Spearhead is True Silver Will for 1 CP. Any phase just after a Grey Knight Psyker vehicle unit from your army suffers a mortal wound, until the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 4+ funeral pain against mortal wounds. Now I have 2 factions with this ability, Grey Knights and the Adeptus Custodes. This is such a strong stratagem against mortal wounds. Any phase and after is what makes True Silver Will so strong. We can wait to see how many mortal wounds have been allocated before we spend the 1 CP. Unlike most mortal wound protection stratagems that we have to use proactively and plan which enemy unit will do the most mortal wounds, True Silver Will, we just have to wait. Take 2 mortal wounds, save the CP. 3 mortal wounds, save the CP and heal it back with Armored Aegis. 5+ mortal wounds allocated, we may want to use the 1 CP for that 4+ Fatal Pain against those mortal wounds. We don't want to use it on 3 or less. We may not roll 4s, we may roll a bunch of 1s, or we just wait and use Armored Aegis for 1 CP. That gives back a flat 3 wounds. That's all the rules for our Sanctic Spearhead. Let's look at some of the top units with this detachment, then onto some example lists. Let's take a look at some of the top units for the Sanctic Spearhead Detachment. Our first unit is a Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight. The stat line and weapons of the Dreadknights are unchanged. The Grandmaster Dreadknight did gain a melter ranged weapon, the Sublimator, with a few melee mace options. While the Grandmaster can reroll hits, wounds, and damage into vehicle and monster units in the fight phase, as well as reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1 once per battle round instead of the old once per battle. Much better. The Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight cannot advance and charge. They will like advance and shoot from the Detachment Rule. They do most of their damage in the fight phase. The Detachment Rule will help us getting into line of sight to shoot when we can't or don't want to get them into combat. Sigil of Exigence is a great enhancement on that Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight. We also have Driven by Duty for that 6-inch pylon and Consolidate move. The best stratagem support in the Codex for these Dreadknights, especially for our Grandmaster Nemesis Dreadknight, who can reduce the cost of stratagems by 1 CP per battle round. Redoubled Assault for fallback, shoot, and charge. Armored Aegis to regain 3 wounds in our command phase. Force Wave, we can use this to move through some terrain to do some shooting and charging. True Silver Will give us a 4+ Fatal Pain to protect us from those hated mortal wounds. Finally, Abominus class target for +1 to the wound roll into vehicle or monster units. With a Great Hammer, we will be wounding most vehicles in the game on a 2+. Then we have the regular Nemesis Dreadknights. The Nemesis Dreadknight and the Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight are not as similar as they were in the Grey Knight's 10th edition index. Codex Nemesis Dreadknights can still advance and charge as well as fall back and charge from their ability. The Nemesis Dreadknight cannot equip the new Sublimator or any of the new mace weapons. The Grandmaster being able to reroll hits, wounds, and damage into vehicle and monsters in the fight phase with no strings attached, as well as reduce the stratagem by 1 CP per battle round. The Nemesis Dreadknight starts to fall behind some. Next up is the Venerable Dreadnought. This is more of a utility unit right now. As of August 2025, they are 140 points each. They do not have the best damage output for the points. They have seen a buff in the 10th edition Codex. They have gained the character keyword to carry enhancements, and that's not all. They also have the Deep Strike and Gate of Infinity ability, so we have teleporting dreadnoughts. There are no enhancements for a utility style unit in the Sanctic Spearhead Detachment. Guidance of the Ancients gives the rest of the Grey Knights models in our list +1 to hit in the shooting phase into 1 enemy unit hit by the Venerable Dreadnought. It has Gate of Infinity and Deep Strike, making it easier to get a shot into the target we want, starting the +1 to hit shooting gallery. Dread Knights and Grandmaster Dreadknights will be hitting on a 2+ with their side cannons and sublimators. Not a unit we want to spend a lot of CP on. True Silver Will for the 4+ to mortals or Armored Aegis to heal 3 wounds are an exception. Then we have the Grey Knights Razorback. The interesting thing about the Razorback is the Fire Focus ability is for the rest of the turn. Units that disembark from the Razorback that turn would have +1 to the AP in the shooting and the fight phase into 1 enemy unit. Purifiers are a great unit to put inside a Razorback, a transport capacity of 6, so we could put Crow and 5 Purifiers, or even a 5-man unit of Purifiers embarked within a Razorback is a real threat. AP1 Stormbolters, AP2 Incinerators and Side Cannons, along with AP3 Purifying Flame. 3 attacks each in the fight phase at Strength 6, AP3 Damage 2. The Purifier's Sanctity of Purpose ability gives them reroll the wounds if the target is within range of an objective. The Razorback with 5 Purifiers embarked are great for pushing enemy objectives. A unit I want to test out in more than one of our new Grey Knights detachments. Next is the Grey Knights Storm Raven gunship. The only flyer in the Grey Knights Codex that does have some decent guns. It is an expensive gun, but an actual real option for the Sanctic Spearhead. Take advantage of the Detachment Rule to have this thing moving 26 inches and then shoot, since all of the ranged weapons will have assault from our Detachment Rule. It does have a big transport capacity. The big guns are the reason we take the Storm Raven gunship. We have some strong stratagems we could use on the gunship. Abominous class target to have +1 to the wound roll against monster and vehicle units in the shooting or the fight phase. Obviously we want to use this in the shooting phase with the Storm Raven. Redoubled assault to fall back the Storm Raven and still be able to shoot. True Silver Will to give the Storm Raven that 4+ funeral pain to mortals. Finally, Armored Aegis to regain 3 wounds. I think I need to get some Storm Raven gunships for my Grey Knights collection. Next up and last is the Strike Squad. The Strike Squad has been unchanged from the Index. It still is a battle line unit that can stick objectives and be led by the Brotherhood champion. It also has the 6-inch scout ability. It never hurts to have a 5-man Strike Squad unit in a Grey Knights list. Stick objectives helps the Grey Knights get around the fact that if you do not hold objectives, you do not win. Now we can put units in reserves with Infinity Gate while still holding objectives. On to our 3 example lists for the Sanctic Spearhead. We have 2 2,000 point lists and 1 1,000 point list. We will take a look at the 2,000 point list first. Our first list comes to 1,995 points. My Warlord is a Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight with the Sigil of Exigence Enhancement with a Side Cannon, Sublimator, and a Great Hammer. For our other characters, we do have 2 more Grandmaster Dreadknights. No enhancements on these, with a Side Cannon, Sublimator, and Great Hammers. For our last character, we do have a Venerable Dreadnought with a Stormbolter, Las Cannon, and Close Combat Weapon. Battle line is 2 5-man units of Strike Squads with 1 Side Cannon and Close Combat Weapon in each one of those units. For the other datasheets, we do have 3 Nemesis Dreadknights with a Side Cannon, Incinerator, and Great Hammer. The last unit in this list is a Storm Raven gunship, 2 Hurricane Bolters, 2 Storm Strike missile launchers, 1 Twin Plasma Cannon, and a Typhoon missile launcher. And once again, this list comes to 1,995 points. The second 2,000 point list once again comes to 1,995 points. Our Warlord is once again a Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight. This time has the Driven by Duty enhancement with a Side Cannon, Sublimator, and Great Hammer. The other characters are the same as our first list. 2 Grandmaster Nemesis Dreadknights with no enhancements, a Side Cannon, Sublimator, and Great Hammer in each one of those units. Finally, a Venerable Dreadnought with a Stormbolter, Las Cannon, and Close Combat Weapon. Battle line is 1 single 5-man Strike Squad unit with a Side Cannon and Close Combat Weapon in that unit. Other datasheets is once again 3 Nemesis Dreadknights with a Side Cannon, Heavy Incinerator, and Great Hammer. 2 5-man Purifier Squads, 2 Incinerators, and 2 Close Combat Weapons in each one of those units. And then finally, for our dedicated transports, we do have 2 Razorbacks with a Stormbolter, Hunter Killer Missile, and a Twin Las Cannon. On to the Sanctic Spearhead 1,000 point list. This list comes to 995 points. Our Warlord is a Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight with the Driven by Duty enhancement, a Side Cannon, Sublimator, and Great Hammer. Our other character is another Grandmaster and Nemesis Dreadknight, no enhancement, a Side Cannon, Sublimator, and Great Hammer. Battle line is a 5-man Strike Squad unit with a Side Cannon, Close Combat Weapon, and for our other datasheets is 2 Nemesis Dreadknight with the Heavy Side Cannon, Heavy Incinerator, and a Great Hammer. That's the list. It comes to 995 points. Those were my 3 examples for a Sanctic Spearhead list. On to the final thoughts. Our Grey Knights vehicles, mainly the Dreadknights, have a detachment of their own now. Dreadknight spam is not going away anytime soon. If anything, it might be back stronger than ever. I would rank the Sanctic Spearhead in the top 3 detachments out of the 6 Grey Knights detachments. The good thing is we can actually bring other vehicles in a vehicle Grey Knights list now. Dreadknight spam with vehicle or infantry support. Which are you going to try first? All vehicles or vehicles with infantry support? Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40k content. Channel members gain early access to videos and an invite to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.